Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino
Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Gino Today we have another amazing guest with us, Phil Kreutzer. He's an amazing transformational coach and speaker. I've known Phil for almost 4 years, and I've seen him expand in his coaching career, and I can't wait to have this discussion and see what comes out of this. So Phil, could you please share with our audience a bit about you and your leadership style?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my background is in mindfulness. And I share this story a lot, but the first ever coach that I worked with, a light bulb went off in my head when I started working with him, because he was really an incredible embodiment of human potential. And I wanted to be like him. And so I was a student of this man. And I realized that he didn't get there from taking a bunch of courses or reading a bunch of books. He got there from doing the inner work, the inner energy integration. And so immediately that, stuck out as a path, as like the way. And that's the way that I've been walking since then and teaching others in. And so it's all about the inner work. And we'll dive into what that is here on the podcast. I'll elaborate.
Perfect.
Yeah. But thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I know you have some experience before the coaching. You were, doing some government contracting too and other different things, and how was your leadership style, maybe before and then even after as you're leading your coaching? And I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Well, I had a few major life transitions and catalysts for, spiritual awakening, for awakening to, my true self. And so huge contrast in leadership style. I would say the first one was asleep at the wheel and living just a really tiny existence that was really so fear-based, so much fear and anxiety living within me. And I was living just such a shell of what I knew my potential was, but I didn't know how to break free. I didn't know how to connect with the true self. I had no idea. I just could feel this inner conflict and this feeling of just feeling like I was a fraud and an imposter. And, one day I just couldn't take it any longer. And I had the beautiful gift of heartbreak from my partner. And, that deep pain is deep clarity. And so I came into this powerful clarity of all the things that weren't working in my life. And I took some really powerful aligned action to reclaim my power and to reconnect with and find, the real me. And since then I've been on that journey, and it's been trending into more and more wholeness, more and more full expression of me. And so now stepping into that, I can lead others on that path that I've been walking.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for expanding that and sharing that. Your background is a little bit different than this is my 20th episode, and I wanted to go deep, and we'll go even deeper into the mindfulness space, right? This is definitely, it's been around for a while, right? And I feel like it's taking on some more momentum, and people are more aware about that, right? And especially after COVID, so many things have changed. But before we dive into that, one question that I always like to ask my guests is, what does being a kind leader mean to you?
Yeah. So a kind leader is truth expressed, truth personified. It's authenticity. And so with that authenticity comes truth, the truth of the heart. And so a kind leader is authentic, they're open-hearted, and that open heart allows for truth to flow. And if truth is flowing, then God is flowing. If truth is flowing, then love is flowing. And if we can be fully present in our heart with others, then that is what is going to support the unlocking and truth flowing out of them. And only then, when your heart is open and your truth is flowing, that you can find your highest expression as a human being. Because it is not ever going to be an outside in thing. It's not ever going to be a try hustle thing. It's coming from whatever that truth is within you that only you can bring to the world.
Wow. Let me pause there for a second. That was that was a different definition that I haven't heard, and it's beautiful. It's because it's truth, right? Truth and love. If I can just narrow it down to those two, obviously, there's more to it, but truth and love. If you live in with your true self, right, with love and caring, nothing stops you. Sounds like, right? And you lead, right? Go ahead.
And I can elaborate on that. So
Please.
when we come into the truth of the heart and we live from that place, infinite intelligence opens up to us, right? Because we are an inside out channel, and we all have infinite access to infinite intelligence. There's a lot of research in the flow state space, and flow opens up to us. There's flow hacking, and then there's flow becoming. I'm in the flow becoming game, right? So when we open up our heart to live into the world from that place, infinite intelligence, creativity, all kinds of current of potential energy is available to us. And so our life will start to align to our truth when we're living from that place. And so I was telling you the other day that your style will improve. Like the clothes that you wear will more authentically match you. Your words will flow because you are in direct alignment. So your articulation ability is just available, and it's really quite amazing. But not only that, in the leadership space, as a kind leader, when you are fully present in your heart with somebody, that intelligence within you will know exactly how to hold the space for them, exactly how to call them forth, exactly what to speak into them. All of those things become available when we live from that place.
Oh man, beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about flow, because when I think of flow, I think like professional athletes, like they are constantly working on their craft and constantly. I'm thinking like an Olympic snowboarder or skier, right? They're going, I don't even know how fast they go, 50 miles an hour down the hill, and there's no fear. They're going, right? There's adrenaline going, but they're in the flow where they're just them in the mountains and carving and skiing. That's how I see kind of like flow, where that's an example, right? There's so many different examples that I feel like is such an amazing, perspective. The other example is music. When you express yourself with music, and personally, I'm a musician growing up playing the saxophone. I've always been so energized and connected with music where I can pick up, listen to some chords and start ad-libbing and playing whatever comes out and creating that. And that connection to your definition is we're in that flow where we can create and do the things, right, that are supposed to be.
Beautiful. Yeah, those are great examples. Yeah. So, I could do an entire podcast on flow. I've actually developed a whole entire 3-month curriculum on flow. So at a very high level, what is flow? What is flow? Well, it's energy moving, right? It is actually, it's the now. It's everything. It's the universe. The entire universe is flowing. It's ever evolving, ever changing. So if you look at a Planet Earth documentary, for example, how beautiful is the flow of these symbiotic ecosystems where everything has a divine time to it, a rhythm of the universe that everything is going to. You wake up in the morning, you got a cosmic alarm clock. You have the birds singing with dawn to usher in a new day, to alert, hey, all right, honeybees, wake up. It's time for you to go pollinate the flowers, and the hummingbirds are going to help you with that, right? And they're, it's all on the right time. When you go to bed, what do you have? You have crickets, you have frogs with the symphony. And it's not just music, but there is this synergy to everything. And it is well beyond human intelligence. It is highly, highly intelligent. And so, you see starlings in flocks. You see schools of fish. How are they able to all turn at the same time? How are they able to maintain this intelligent shape among a group?
Wow.
It's because they're tapped into the flow. They are flow itself, right? And so that rhythm is just living within them. They don't have to think about it. Nothing's filtering through the mind in flow. We're just expressing ourselves as flow. And so the way I look at flow is when we come into this world, we are flow personified, right? And we actually when we come into this world, we're actually a function of flow, right? The sperm finds its way to the egg. Then we become something through an energetic process, which is flow. Then we literally flow out of another human being into this world. Right. And then flow personified is inspiration personified, right? So we're now following butterflies because we just feel like it, not because we have to explain it or justify it to anybody. And then what happens, and this is what leads to this disassociation and disconnection that we're all kind of battling, is we get conditioned out of flow because mom and dad say, hey, stop flowing all the time. You got to sit still and abide by these rules. You have to conform, be a good girl, be a good boy. And a number of other different factors, lead us to leave the body, to repress and not feel the flow of emotion, which takes us out of the flow, takes us into our mind, living above the neck. That's not where we want to live because the mind is not the master, it's a servant. That's how it's meant to be. And so the mind is also dualistic. So you can characterize much of the journey of self-development as walking 18 inches from head to heart, coming back into the body, opening back up to flow, the flow of energy, emotions, right? Then, which that opens up the flow becoming. That's the journey of becoming flow again, is processing out, opening up to flow with emotions, because the unprocessed emotions are actually bottlenecking flow. They're disrupting the flow of energy.
Right.
That's the channel that we experience our infinite intelligence and creativity through.
Wow. That is definitely enlightening for me, right? And you and I have talked to each other for a while now, but this, I'm trying to make sure that it resonates with some of our listeners, right? This may be the first time they hear flow. This is the first time they hear about mindfulness, right? Because the audience, I feel like, that are listening is like leaders out there that are trying to understand what it means to be a kind leader. And bringing it back to what you just defined, because you have a course, right, that people can take and potentially listen to all of this, right? What you just described with the flow and essentially bringing it from the head to the heart, right? From the mind to the heart. To me, when I talk about kind leaders out there, it starts within, right? In my last episode, there was a gentleman who was talking about how we can lead organizations through empathy and everything like that. But then I brought it into like, we have to lead ourselves first and be empathetic with ourselves first. And now that you're talking about the flow, is bringing it from the mind and the judgment and all that stuff and bringing it to the heart and to the love. So making that connection and taking care of yourself and making sure that you are in that flow state and that connection, then you can then, like you said, that intelligence creation will allow you to truly lead out there, right? And that's why I'm trying to make the connection even the more leadership side, what you just explained. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can elaborate and kind of synthesize. So yeah, we got to put our oxygen mask on our face first before we can put on the others, right? And so if we can open up to flow internally, then we can flow out into the world and our cup is running over. And so, the way that looks is coming to the present moment. The present moment is the only place we can access flow. And it's dissolving any resistance or separation we have to the moment, which allows us to plug directly in. And most certainly, for everyone listening, there's going to be unprocessed emotion there. And so we need to open up to feel our feelings, to sense our sensations, to allow energy to flow. That's how homeostasis works.
But that's scary, man.
It is scary. Absolutely, it's scary.
Right? I mean, if you think about it, it's like you start feeling that prickly emotion and you're like, oh, no, I don't want to feel that. I'm going to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Well, we've been conditioned to just repress.
Right.
And so, yeah, it is scary because we're opening up to the unknown. Because we don't know when we lift that lid, we don't know what's going to be there. But as long as we can stay present and in our body and our direct experience, it's never as bad as the mind would have us believe, ever. The mind is what makes that so scary, because the mind's like freaking out. Wait, what is this? I don't know. Telling a story about what, big bad wolf is under the bed.
Right.
But it always comes through our direct experience. And so sourcing those feelings, where do you feel them in the body? And almost always it starts with like a tightness in the chest or pit in the stomach or a lump in the throat. And then we bring our awareness to what we're feeling and experiencing, be with that, breathe with that, And then now we're opening up to the flow. And as soon as we process whatever top layer there is, then the next layer is going to reveal itself. And that is a very intelligent process because the nervous system is so intelligent. Homeostasis is such an intelligent process. And thank goodness for that, because it's our ally. And here's the thing. Homeostasis wants to happen. Harmony wants to happen within us. And that's amazing, because all we have to do is open up to the harmony that's already wanting to happen. Our natural, authentic essence of kind leadership wants to flow out into the world. But we're scared of it, and we're keeping it, right? For me, my story, I was terrified. That applies to me directly. And I was living such a small existence until the pain of inaction outweighed the risk of taking action. And for me, it wasn't until that energetic balance went from, it was this, and then it went to like 51-49, and then as soon as it got above, then it broke. And then I became free.
Say that one more time. The action.
Yeah, the pain of inaction outweighed the risk of taking action, right? Because again, the risk of taking action is going to the unknown, charting new territory. It's opening up a new neural pathway. And so it can be scary. But when we actually do the thing, it's never as bad as we had it cracked up to be in our minds. Ever.
I feel that every time, right? When I talk to my kids or even experience it myself, right? It's always that. It's always that, it's not as bad as it seems, right? Or at least the stories that the mind tells you, right? And limits you. That's a big one. And that's one of the biggest, when I'm talking to my employees or even partners and stuff like that, is the limiting belief that you think that the mind is trying to protect you, but the reality is just keeping you in that afraid state. And then allowing you to expand to your true self or the genuine being that you can be to experience this life, right? And experience the journey that you're supposed to be in here, right? So I do want to come back real quick on you talk about the body, right? When you are trying to feel the emotions, right? And one of the biggest things that it took me a while to realize this, but your heart, your lungs, those organs that are important in your body, you don't control them. You can't tell it like at least they are on their own, right? I mean, you can, like your heart beats every second or however fast it beats without you really telling it to, right? Right? And your lungs expand with air and without you telling it. And one of the things that I've experienced, and when I meditate, I start with gratitude of just my body and gratitude of just my heart beating, my lungs expanding. And then from then on, I expand into other things that I'm grateful. So because from a gratitude state, I feel like every time I go into that state, maybe not necessarily a flow, but so many things, so many good things, right? And that feeling, that emotion, right? And the awareness of all of that allows me to get into a better energetic field.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Do you feel that as well?
100%. Yeah. So that raises a lot of interesting avenues for us to explore. So what happens when you go into gratitude? When you're in meditation, gratitude, what is gratitude? It's like giving thanks for what we have, appreciating what we have. And so that is going to bring us to open up our energetic experience, because it's bringing that awareness into, yes, thank you, this body, this life, everything that I have. So it's opening up your receiving channel.
Right.
Right? Because it's not like, oh, I wish I had this, or we're not in our mind. We're in the feeling of gratitude. Oh, thank you for this. So we're receiving the energy of what we have.
Right.
So then that is opening up the flow, because gratitude is saying yes to this experience, yes to my reality, this.
Right.
Right? But if we're in our mind trying to be somewhere else or trying to focus, we're not in our body receiving. And that is such a key distinction. It's really, really important that this is what I teach, is opening up the flow, is opening up our receiving capacity.
Yeah.
And you can think of that as like when you open up the flue to a fireplace. Heat in the house then is like, oh, there's a draft now that we can flow through because heat rises. So when we open up our receiving channel, our receiving capacity, then the unprocessed energy within us feels like, oh, there's a draft now. There's a pathway for us to flow through. And then energy flows. And then now we're going to be feeling a lot more connected, because we're connecting to the flow. The energy that was unprocessed and held now has a way to flow through, and we are receiving that energy.
Beautiful. One thing I was thinking is growth mindset and scarcity mindset, right? There's growth and scarcity mindset as it relates to what you just described, right? You have to be open. Kind of gratitude makes you open to receiving that. But when you started saying that, I thought of growth mindset, right? Like the abundance, right? Of being able to understand what's out there. And when you have that mindset compared to the scarcity mindset where you're more repressed and not really touching the field. Can you expand on that? Does that make sense? Kind of trying to, because I ask these questions to all the guests.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between growth and scarcity mindset when it comes to leading, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's a way of being. It's a way of, right? For me, it's a way of being. And insofar as I can be open-hearted and receive whatever life throws at me, then I'm going to be growing always. No matter what life throws at me, I can feel how it makes me feel and grow into it. So that's one way of being in the flow, because we're flowing with whatever reality throws at us. And so we're flowing in a growth upward spiral dynamic. Scarcity mindset is, not trusting the flow. Truly. It's closing our heart down. It's getting in our mind. It's living a small existence. It's not trusting the universe. And so don't look outside the present moment, because that's where the growth is.
Don't look outside the present moment, because that's where the growth is. So essentially living in the now, appreciating what you're in right now, the feeling that you're going through. Because the minute you start thinking about the future, you get anxious. You're thinking about the past, you get depressed. And so I like what you said. That was beautiful.
Yeah. And look, growth is wanting to happen, right? Just like harmony is wanting to happen, homeostasis is wanting to happen, growth is wanting to happen. Our higher self is wanting to grow out into the world, to become our higher self embodied, right? And so we do that by flowing with whatever life throws at us. And we can think, this is really interesting, when we do that, then we can see the perfection of what life is throwing at us. Because a lot of times they'll throw, we've talked about this. This is a little bit of a rabbit hole, but sometimes we have. I'll give you a client example. I had a client who was bullied for their whole lives, and they came to me at like 55 or something, and they were still being bullied. And I said, "All right, well, how does that make you feel?" And we went into the feeling of how it makes them bullied, and then we're feeling. And in the feeling, it took us back to this seminal event in 7th grade.
Wow.
When they got bullied, and then you feel it to heal it.
Right.
So, we felt the feeling of it, that allowed the healing of it. And then what we realized was that it was actually that seminal event and the pain that was stored there. And then we're getting into quantum physics here, right? That law of attraction that made them a vibrational match for that experience to keep finding them and finding them and finding them. Now, here's the thing. It would be so easy for them to go into a victim mindset around that.
Right.
Because they have a mountain of evidence. They're like, look, for the last 30-something years, I've been bullied serially. What's going on? Why is the universe doing that to me? Well, the universe understands that all you need to do is feel it to heal it, because homeostasis wants to happen within you. And so the universe is just going to keep poking you where it hurts, where you have the wound, because if you just felt, then it would heal. But because you're not, and you're holding that energy in, you continue to be a vibrational match for that experience.
Wow.
So if we're seeing it through the lens of this is happening for me, then if we just flow with the growth mindset, then boom, that energy gets felt and released. We're no longer carrying that vibration of the pain of that experience. So we're not going to attract it out in the world.
Wow.
So I'll get a little deeper into the law of attraction stuff, but it's real.
Yeah. No. When you were talking about that, one of the things I was picturing is like you talking about the repressed emotions, right? That we keep throughout our careers, throughout our life, and we keep putting it. It's like, okay, here's a closet, throw it in there, boom, you close it, right? But it's still in your body, even though it's stored away, right? It's still in your body from an energetic perspective. And when you said feel it to heal it, I like that terminology. You're coming in and opening that closet door and releasing that. And allowing it to the fireplace you mentioned, right? Allowing it to just flow and go.
Mm-hmm.
So you are healing it, right? Go ahead.
100%. 100%. Feeling is healing. And
Yeah.
also, feeling is revealing too. Because when we feel into the dynamics, like we felt into how it felt for this person to get bullied at 55, we're feeling
Right.
into that, and then it reveals the seminal memory. And here's the thing. Yeah, those skeletons in our closet, those unprocessed emotions and energies that we have just stored in our neurology, they are damming up the flow of us out into the world.
Right.
And that unprocessed energy, you can think of it as like a silo of energy in our consciousness, which contains all of us. So every ounce of our consciousness contains every aspect of our consciousness.
Wow.
So if there's a part of us that's in this silo that is unprocessed, that's part of our potential, part of our genius, part of our uniqueness that only we can bring, that is offline. So this journey of integrating those parts of ourselves in separation is one of expanding into wholeness, greater and greater wholeness.
I love it. So what are 3 things, if you have 3, it could be 2, however you want, that our listeners out there in the business world, as they're focusing on things that they can do for themselves, what are 3 things that they could do on a daily basis to begin to get closer to that flow state, get closer to the abundance mindset, and truly lead with the truth?
Yeah. So I'm going to give 3 of my own things, and I'm also going to tell a little story here.
Okay.
So great question. And I've shared this with you before, but if you were to ask that question to a shaman in an indigenous tribe, hey, I lost my flow. How can I come back into flow? Or I'm depressed. How can I feel good again?
Right.
They would boil it down to 4 very straightforward, simple questions. They'd be like, hey, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did you stop enjoying silence? So singing, dancing, stories, which is like entertainment, passion, curiosity, and stillness. And so they understood that, hey, when you dance, what is dancing, right? Music hits you, it should move you because it's the vibration hitting you, and it's going to move your body if it's good. Right. So if you have a problem dancing, you're clogged up, so you can dance it out. Singing is moving energy through our voice, right? It's energy moving through, again, clearing energy. Stillness is getting quiet so that we can hear or that we can process what we're resisting. Right. And then stories is our excitement and passion. That's an energetic experience of excitement moving through us. So I think it's a powerful illustration of how simple they looked at it and how they could remedy that. Now, in the modern day and age, I would say give those things a try. Totally. Like, are you dancing every day? Right? Like, that's fun. If you're not, you're missing out, right? Gino was just talking about the flow he gets into when he's playing his music. That's singing. Yeah. A saxophone is singing. You're moving wind through your pipes and you are flowing. And I'm sure you have even almost a spiritual experience with that. Mm-hmm. And then getting quiet. You have to carve out stillness in your day. And I would say start in the morning before you've checked your phone or done anything. Because as soon as you check your phone, you're opening up like a browser tab on your metaphysical browser in your consciousness. You're opening up tabs. Yeah. And even if you're not using them, they're still occupying bandwidth. Right. So first thing in the morning is you're going to be most present. And how can you connect with yourself? I would say get a journal and just put the pen to paper and allow it to flow. Right. That's a flow expression. So
that being still. Yeah. But yet writing and journaling whatever's coming to you, right? Whatever you just free flow. Basically.
Yeah, you can free flow. That's a great practice. You can have intentional journal questions, but if we're opening up flow pathways. How many different ways can we allow energy to flow out of us? Because what we're doing nowadays is a lot of energy is flowing into us. We're just consuming nonstop. And we don't have time to receive ourselves. It needs to be an inside-out dynamic, not outside-in.
Right. And this is such a lot of people are following and doing this, right? And I feel like in the corporate world, it's slowly kind of, especially in my organization here, we meditate at different levels with meetings or with individuals, right? Just to get them to be in the present. Because we're in the present, we'll be able to experience a better meeting and lead through the heart and the feeling rather than the mind. Obviously, will, from a business perspective, there's different dynamics and different things, but it's experiencing this world. It's the most important thing. So I appreciate you breaking down those four things. I think it's very important for our audience to make sure that they're starting to do that on a daily basis, to make sure that they are getting the oxygen they need, right? So they can help others, they can lead others as well. So,
and passion is so important. If you need to have something that you're passionate about. To have passion flowing through you is to animate. To live is to have passion. So make sure you have passion. And anything that you can do to cultivate presence. I have a couple of different things I could share. I don't know if there's links that I can put.
We will. Yeah, if you can send me some links, we'll put it up on the description there for sure.
Yeah, definitely have some mindfulness resources I can share.
Beautiful. A few more questions, and then as we come into our descent here, what does success as a leader mean to you?
So living your truth, as when you live in love, the inside creates the outside. When you live in fear, the outside creates the inside. And so living in love as the way shower, as the embodiment of truth embodied, personified, that makes that path more accessible to everyone else by you just living that, being the example. And just by living that way, you're going to impact people. Like, no question about it. Because there is that just innate intelligence in the heart that knows what to do and when to do it, knows exactly how to hold space, knows how to be a Jedi kind leader.
A Jedi kind leader. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. One more question is, if you could have coffee with anyone alive or from the past, who would it be and why?
Yeah, you told me, you asked me this at the beginning. Einstein would be cool.
Einstein? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Einstein was cool. He was a kind leader. And he was tapped into to flow big time. And he would tell you that he didn't get his big breakthroughs through thinking really hard. He got it through coming into an open, receptive flow state.
Wow.
So I would love to talk flow with him.
That would have been beautiful. Yeah. I would have jumped right into it. Listen, for sure. All right, Phil, thank you for that. Where can our listeners connect with you? I'm sure you're in all the different social medias, but, any recommendations?
They can follow my Instagram or find me on philkreutzer.com. And
awesome.
I'm going to be creating a lot of flow-based programming.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing on that. And then any final thoughts?
We can make this such a... leadership is such a huge field, and it can be one where we try really hard to be a certain way. But really, the true leadership is effortless. Coming into the heart and flowing from that place, it requires vulnerability. It absolutely requires vulnerability. It requires you showing to the world that it's okay to go into your feelings. Even leading a big meeting, that you can be crying and actually holding deep space. Because really, the deepest space you can hold is hold space for everything and anything. And when we do the inner work, just as I found in my coach, then all of this heart intelligence opens up to us. And it really can be an effortless flow. And like, you surprise yourself. Oh my gosh, where did that even come from? I don't even know. I've never said that before.
Right.
Or like just holding space for someone's breakthrough in a way that you're like, wow.
Right.
Wow. It was just deep presence and deep love.
That's beautiful, Phil. Powerful final thoughts there. And one of the things that just came to me as you were expressing that is, there's no cookie cutter kind leader, because it's really how you flow yourself and you are who you are, right? Personalities are all different, and what you're supposed to be experiencing is what you're supposed to be experiencing at the end of the day. So thank you, Phil. Amazing show here today. A lot of good nuggets. It's a different perspective than other guests that I have, but this is just the beginning. We're really doing an amazing job out there to communicate and create amazing, kind leaders in this world, and starts within. Take care of yourself and make sure that you are working on those 4 things that Phil mentioned. And we'll put it on the notes, and maybe you can reach out to Phil and he can help you with a lot of things on the flow state for sure. But with that, thank you, Phil, for joining us. Thank you for the listeners out there. And with that, be